acres is the place to be. Farm living is the life for me. Land spreading out so far and wide. Keep Manhattan, just give me that countryside.
York is where I'd rather stay. I get allergic smelling hay. Just adore a penthouse view. Darling, I love you. Give me Park Avenue.
The George.
The stars.
Fresh air.
Trump Tower.
You are my wife.
Goodbye, city life. Green acres, we are there.
I just want to tell you guys about a little incredible movie that just came out, Snow White. Wow. I just got to tell you, best movie I've seen in years, and there have been some really good films lately. Madam Web, Rebel Moon Part 1, that movie, that transgender one with the Mexican drug lord. But Snow White blows them all away. Chat, this movie has everything. Horrifying, CGI, little people, check. A feminist princess who don't need no man, double check. Diddy dance party at the end, double Diddy check. All this to say, go see Snow White right now. The new one. Not that old stupid one where the princess gets saved by some good, upstanding guy.
And where down we go, where down we go, say where down we go. Too much. Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to the front line with Joe and Joe. Joe Pasillo and Joe Rossinello once again going into the breach Thursday nights, 9 o'clock Eastern time across social media. Welcome to the show, Joe. It's all about oligarchs tonight. You got oligarchs. Tulsi Gabbard talking about oligarchs. You got Robert F. Kennedy Jr. talking about BlackRock, who are oligarchs. Gavin Newsom, who's an oligarch, but now is backpedaling on everything. Then all of a sudden he wants to be a centrist. I got one word for you, Gavin, and just one. Oligarch. That's what you are. And COVID. All right, brother. COVID. You want to remember that? We'll remind you of that. Obviously, I mean, we got to worry a little bit. We're going to talk a little bit about Donald Trump and Iran. He sent them a warning. And of course, the oligarchs, we all know, Joe, that they want war. War is a very big thing. And oligarchs in France that they don't want Marine Le Pen to run for president. It really is. Europe sucks.
Oh, they do.
Joe,
100%.
how about we say, why don't we bring it back to Jersey language? Europe sucks.
Oh, they stink.
I don't want to say it. They're horrible. They're horrible. And here's the thing. All the oligarchs, that first clip we played, right? Donald Trump, okay? And by the way, Elon Musk, is stepping down from Doge. Did you hear about that?
Oh, I did not.
Yeah, I don't think it's a bad thing. I have to read more about it. What I think is happening, again, it's my own humble opinion. I think what Musk is doing, he set it up. He brought his boys in. He put the whole system in place. He's got a business to run. He's got rockets to fly. He wants to go to Mars. Of course, the media is going to pay him. And plus, I think he's worried about his own personal safety, to be honest with you, because the people out there, we're going to talk a little bit about Unhinged later on, a couple of clips for you from some unhinged people. Joe, if they had the opportunity, they'd put a bullet in his head. You know what I mean? Elon, I don't blame the guy for saying, look, I'll put the system in place. That's what I do. I'm not the guy on the computer. I'm not the guy doing all the things, Mr. Trump, President Trump. They'll feed you the information that you need, but I got to step out of this. That's only my personal opinion. But the oligarchs, Elon Musk was a darling up until he supported Trump and free speech and America first. Donald Trump, that first clip, hee-haw, or what was that? Green Acres, all right? So he's at the Grammys. That's when Donald Trump was cool because, Donald Trump was New York and cosmopolitan and pro-abortion, okay? And all these things. And certainly not a MAGA guy, all right, by any stretch, or at least as far as anybody knew. Now, and they already tried to shoot him a couple times. They didn't get off the bullets the one time, and the first time they barely missed him. These oligarchs, I want to tell you and everybody out there, Joe, a quick story. I follow the markets, okay? Donald Trump yesterday, okay, and I've been saying this, okay? that the market was going to not believe him when it came to the tariffs. And he put out a list of tariffs, reciprocal tariffs, yesterday. He had a list. And what was he saying? He was saying that these countries are taking advantage of us. They're taking advantage of our people. And we don't want that anymore. So if you're going to impose tariffs on us, we're going to impose tariffs on you. Sounds reasonable, doesn't it? Joe, I was watching the market this morning, 5:30 my time. An hour before the market opened, I was watching Bloomberg because that's all I have on my stream. I don't have Fox Business, or I never watch Bloomberg, all right? And you had to see the hand wringing while the NASDAQ futures were down 1,000 points, okay? And the Dow Jones futures were down 1,200 points. Why is he doing this? And here's where I'm going with this, and everybody out there at the front line with Joe and Joe. Doesn't he understand it's a global system? And I want to say to myself, dudes, you're the smartest people in the room, so you tell us. Of course it's a global system. And he's trying to uncouple us from that global system and make us strong again because we're getting taken advantage of. Right. We don't want Donald Trump, Joe and Joe, everybody who watched us. We don't want your globalism. And Joe, the hand-wringing about Trump's going to destroy everything. So what? The market went down 1,000 points. And you know what will happen with these companies, Joe? And then I'm going to throw it over to you because I want to comment. You know the way it works. NVIDIA, AMD, I don't care who it is, Tesla, all these companies, Microsoft, Apple, you know what they do? They adjust. And then their stocks go down temporarily. Their share prices go down temporarily. And after they adjust for the political risk of tariffs, you know what happens? The stock starts coming back up again. They make the adjustments. They move forward. That's the way it is. The hand-wringing over the NASDAQ being down 1,000 points was unbelievable. And they were blaming Trump because they said he doesn't understand that it's a global system. And I want to say, dudes, you just don't get it. You just don't get it.
Well, Joe, no matter what the man does, he's going to get criticized. I mean, it's actually pretty sad. But the way I look at it at this time, it's time to buy. You know what I'm saying? The market's gone down. Most probably it'll go back up. I mean, Trump, the biggest mistake is people think he's stupid. He may be crass. He may be arrogant. He may be rude. He's not stupid.
Not stupid.
That is when people go off on that tangent, I'm just like, this man, what he has accomplished, politically speaking, is unreal. It's unreal.
Yeah.
Like him or not, he's a historic figure. Donald Trump, when he passes, there's going to be all sorts of things named after him. That is a fact.
Right.
That is a fact. Like it or not. Like it or not.
No, it's so true. And one final comment from me, and then we're going to talk a little bit more. We're going to get into the oligarchs out there. Okay, is I hate when people start a question with, "Don't you understand?" That implies that I don't understand, or that Donald Trump doesn't understand, or that Joe Resinello doesn't understand. No, what you don't understand is we do understand the whole thing, and we disagree with you. And we actually think that what you propose is destructive, particularly to Americans. I've said on this show, Joe, with you 1,000,000 times, you want me to be happy because the Dow is at record levels, or the NASDAQ's at record levels, or the S&P's at record levels, but I can't pay my bills. You're trying to convince me that I'm supposed to be happy about that. You know who knows that I'm not happy about that and wants to do something about it? DJT. And he did that yesterday with these tariffs. I think the market's going lower. That's not investment advice. Don't take it as investment advice. I think the market's going lower. I think that you're going to see retaliation from these other countries. All right. But remember, we are the largest economy in the world, not China. China's got 1 billion people. We have 350 million. We are the most powerful economy in the world. Here's my thing. Don't worry about it. Everything's going to be fine. But the pushback has to happen. And on this front, on this tariff front and protecting American workers and American manufacturing, Donald Trump is exactly right. And they can't stand it. Let's roll this.
The mob that stormed the Capitol on January 6th to try to stop Congress from carrying out its constitutional responsibilities were behaving like domestic enemies of our country. But let's be clear. The John Brennans, Adam Schiffs, and the oligarchs in big tech who are trying to undermine our constitutionally protected rights and turn our country into a police state with KGB-style surveillance are also domestic enemies, and much more powerful and therefore dangerous than the mob that stormed the Capitol. Now, John Brennan said,
So I know looking forward that the members of the Biden team who have been nominated or have been appointed are now moving in laser-like fashion to try to uncover as much as they can about what looks very similar to insurgency movements that we've seen overseas, where they germinate in different parts of the country and they gain strength, and it brings together an unholy alliance frequently of religious extremists, authoritarians, fascists, bigots, racists, nativists, even libertarians.
now, President Biden, I call upon you and all members of Congress from both parties to denounce these efforts by the likes of Brennan and others to take away our civil liberties that are endowed to us by our Creator and guaranteed in our Constitution.
Now, let's leave it there. Did you hear Brennan? Now, that was an old clip. That's when Biden was still in office, okay? But it was a good one that you pulled up because it encapsulates her playing Brennan, basically saying what Hillary Clinton said that lost her the 2016 election, which is, we are all deplorable. See, Joe, you're a religious extremist. I hope that's what Brennan thinks of you. That's what he thinks of me. You're a bigot because you're against gay marriage, okay? You're a nativist because, let's say, you want your fellow citizens, I don't care if they're liberal, Democrat, Republican, conservative, I want Americans to do well because, like them or not, and I don't like most of them, all right, but they are my countrymen and I want them to do well. See, that's nativist. If you're proud of your ethnicity, as let's say you and I as Italian Americans, you're of course you're racist because, well, why don't you like black people more? I don't know. I do like black people. I'm married to one. So is Joe, but I'm not. I'm Italian. I have Italian pride. But you see the dripping condescension in a guy like that? And again, it's the doubling and tripling and quadrupling down on calling half the country, or more than half the country, actually, more than half the country, all of these names, and nobody calls them out on it except Donald Trump. That's why he's president.
I mean, that's the reason why I think that clip is great. She is calling them out and she is stating the facts. These people are working against John Q. Public and everyone who lives on Main Street from Hawaii to Maine. And frankly, just look at our cities. It says everything you need to know. Ultimately, look at the budget that Congress puts out. They don't read it. These people are terrorists. They are domestic terrorists in many respects. And she's 100% right. They're doing infinitely more harm. And this is Republicans too. McConnell, people like, get lost. Get lost. All of them. They're useless. Romney, get lost. Schumer, goodbye. And she's 100% right. And I'll even go so far as to say some of them should be put in prison, like Mayorkas. Joe Biden should be put in prison. George Bush should be put in prison for the war that he put us in. That was absolutely worthless, useless. We broke down a country and then we tiptoed out of it and left it unstable. People died both in our country and abroad. He should be put in prison. These are people that are working against our interests, and she's calling them out. And ultimately, why aren't there any semblance of accountability? None. There are people who are in jail that steal $500 from a liquor store that are serving years in jail. These men have and women have enriched themselves. They go into office with no money and they come out multimillionaires on salaries that there is no feasible way that they could have that type of money. And no one investigates it and no one cares. They should be held accountable and they're not. And
well, that's also why they were so obviously they needed to very quickly jump in and vilify Elon Musk, because Elon Musk and the system that he put in place, excuse me, exposes all this. It exposes how they're making their money. The NGOs, that whole story that came out last week, the way it's just money laundering for the Democrat Party. The Democrats take and the Republicans are included too, because they haven't done anything about it. The Democrats take our money, they give it to the NGOs. The NGOs under the table give the money back to the Democrats. Okay? In other words, and what kind of nonsense is that? And if you call it out, you get called the names that Brennan was just calling you. And we're going to talk about Marine Le Pen in France in a little bit. But he's including all parts of the world in that statement, not just Americans. There's like the Yellow Jackets, remember, in France?
Sure.
Okay. A lot of people in England. I think the guy's name's Tommy Robinson. They threw him in jail. Okay. You have the right wing in Germany. They're not allowed. Nobody wants to go near them either. In the German government, it's like, and you're not going to tell me that the people of these nations don't want their voices heard. And again, these oligarchs are turning around and they shut it down. That's why they hate X. We know that's why they hate X. That's why another reason why they hate Elon Musk. And they're not winning. They're not, Joe, because listen, what are you going to do? You're going to call Tulsi Gabbard a right-wing extremist? We're going to play a clip from Robert F. Kennedy Jr. You're going to call Robert F. Kennedy, really? You're going to call him a right-wing extremist? No, he's just not a wacko, leftist, insane person like you. He's a classical Democrat, which we don't agree with most of him on that either.
They're all
but at least he's sane.
They're bought and sold. These are independent, as independent as it's going to get. Voices. And they're not interested. They do not want a government of people like Tulsi Gabbard, like RFK, people who frankly are not in bed with some of these special interests. That is not the democracy they're interested in. And that's why in many ways they are domestic threats to people, because they don't represent you. And frankly, some of them, I'm going to say it again, Fauci should be in jail. He should be in jail. What he did to people trusted him. He's a doctor. They trusted him. He should be in jail.
He should not be allowed to die peacefully in his house with his family around. He should die in a prison.
Joe, he should go to jail. I mean, and that's kind of what Tulsi Gabbard, the point that she's making, compared to what happened on January 6th. What these people have done to this country, they have raped and pillaged it. If you ask me, they destroyed it, Joe. I don't know if it's ever going to be the same. I'm going to be honest with you.
Well, see, Donald Trump's got to be careful here because, he's passing a budget, or he wants to sign a budget that's got more deficits. There's nothing slow that needs to happen here. The same way he did the tariffs, the same way he's coming out and say, these are the tariffs. This is what's happening. This is when they go into effect. Is the same thing he's got to do with the budget. The same thing he's got to do with the debt. He's got to take $2 trillion out of the budget. We got to go back to pre-COVID levels of spending, okay? And then we have to start paying down our debt. It's got to be rapid because guess what? I'm sorry, if he doesn't do it, or if he's too slow moving his feet, and I don't think he wants to be, but if he's too slow moving his feet, I don't know that there's going to be another shot.
No, Joe, I'll be honest with you. He's already all in on accelerating the debt. Donald, he did it the first term. He's going to do it again. The debt's what's going to sink America eventually. I can't predict when. It'll be the next financial crisis, maybe. The debt is what sinks America. That's what is going to crush us. And Donald Trump is full steam ahead on that. I completely disagree with him. And we talked about this a few shows ago with Massey. I'm completely on board, but they're not interested in that. They're absolutely not. They absolutely are banking on the fact that the U.S. currency will continue to be the global currency, and the debt is just monopoly money until it's not the global currency and the bank wants its money. And then we're screwed. And that's exactly what's going to destroy this country. And then China will be the superpower for probably about 100 years. And the world is not going to be pretty. And America is not going to be the same place. We're not going to live in squalor. There'll be a time of unrest, though, when America falls apart, like it was in Russia for about 20 years. Russia was a disaster run by organized crime, black markets. That will happen here. And then it'll stabilize, and it just won't be what it was. there won't be a middle class. People will not be able to jump above their father, doing better than their family. If your father was a milkman, you'll be a milkman. That's how the world is for the most part. That's what made us unique. We're losing that. In many respects, we've already lost it. College is too expensive, and the jobs you're getting outside of college, if you're just an average graduate 3.0 from a state school, you can't even pay them back. Why
No.
even go? Unless you're somebody that's like a mover and a shaker, and then it's definitely worth it. But the 3.0 kid from the average college who's going to take $200,000 in debt, what are you doing? What are you doing? You're
Foolish
not.
move.
Oh, it is
Foolish.
absolutely a foolish move. And it's proven. That was not the case when we finished school. America, they destroyed it. And that is why Tulsi Gabbard is spot on. These people should go to jail.
Well,
What
Joe,
they did.
here's my issue. And this is now, again, I know it's still early on. I know Trump's been president for what, 1, 2, 3 months. Okay. And I get it. And I know that let me speak for myself here at the front line with Joe and Joe. I need to exhibit a little bit more patience and develop that virtue a little bit more. But when we're talking about being where we are with $36 trillion in debt, a $6 or $7 trillion budget that we cannot afford, American people getting taxed beyond belief, and beyond just the personal income tax. Okay. When you think about all these things, you say to yourself, you want to grab Trump sometimes by the lapels and say, Mr. President, we voted for you. I voted for him enthusiastically on this front, not so enthusiastically when it came to obviously the social issues, which I don't think he's insane, but he's certainly not in lockstep with us. But I enthusiastically thought that he was going to come in like gangbusters, and he did. And now all of a sudden, it seems like he's getting the pushback, and he's getting pushed back. At least that seems to me to be that way. And when it comes to all these systems that are in place, the budget that's in place, the increasing debt, and how about this? And then we'll come right back. How about this? When are we going to go after Wall Street and break these companies up?
Owns all the meat packers. There's only 4 meat packers in this country. BlackRock owns them all. And you can say to them, you need to do antitrust suits against those meat packers. The meat packers are keeping the price of meat high and the price of cows low. So the farmer gets hurt, the consumers get hurt, and they make the money because they've got a monopoly. There are many other things like, BlackRock owns all the pharmaceutical companies, and we can start regulating the pharmaceutical companies so that they behave less like a cartel.
Trump said he was going to do something about this.
Well, it's funny you say that. This is where the rubber meets the road. What RFK is saying is correct, and they should be broken up. There's a number of things that should be broken up. And this is where Trump, the rhetoric, has to basically start being applied. If he doesn't do that, I'm upset. I think Google should be broken up. They're too powerful, way too powerful. BlackRock, Vanguard, absolutely should be broken.
I think BlackRock has $10 trillion under management.
Should be broken up.
$10 trillion.
That's not good. You talk about people, that's not good for regular people. Period. We should not even have allowed the banks to consolidate. JP Morgan should not be so big. After all the trouble that we've had with banking issues over the years, they allowed all the banks to consolidate. Absolutely not. That should never have been allowed. And that is, again, a betrayal of the American people by both the Democrats and the Republicans. And it happens right in front of our eyes, and we just tolerate it. And at least I give RFK credit. I really do, for saying things like this and informing people. Now, what are you going to do about it? As in the government. And I got news for you. As people, the standard of living decreases, and it already has for many people, companies like BlackRock are going to buy everything up because they have all the money. They're going to buy up all the apartments. They're going to buy up all the housing. And basically, they're ushering in a 21st century version of feudalism. You're going to live on their land, so to speak. It's just not going to be like it was in the 12th century. It's going to look different, but it's the same idea. You're a serf, and you will pay. And you're going to pay the landowner. And that is exactly what is going to happen.
I'll tell you the difference, though. You were better off being a serf because one of the obligations, see, you had, as a serf, you had obligations to your lord, right? The lord of the manor, okay, who owned the land that you worked on. You had obligations to him. But guess what? He had obligations to you too. You see, people forget a little history lesson. Feudalism is not what you learn about when you go to, let's say, your average undergraduate program at an average American university. Okay, because at the time, remember, you didn't have, let's say, a cohesive Europe at that time, and people did not have protection like you with 5 kids or me with a wife and son. Right? We didn't have protection against a lot of different groups of people who were marauding all over Europe. So what did they do? They went to the Lord and they said, we'll work for you. We'll live on your land. We'll work the land. We'll give you what's yours. You provide us with a living, but you got to protect us. That they were protected. Guess what will happen if BlackRock becomes your Lord? You're toast. They ain't protecting you. Okay? They're not giving you anything. At least the Lord, you had some security. You won't have any security in America if BlackRock owns everything, Joe Resinello.
Well, they basically do. Like he just said, they own all the meat packing companies. They own the pharmaceutical companies. They got their hand in everything. And they also are the leader of ESG, which is basically businesses and government colluding to get around the Constitution. And it's legal. Every single company on the Bloomberg machine has an ESG rating that is driven by BlackRock. Larry Fink sits on the board.
Yep.
I mean, of many companies, not to mention he sits on the board of the World Economic Forum. He has a huge voice in that. And these are if you ask me, this is like modern, it's a scourge. And people don't pay attention to it. And we say this on the show all the time. It's all out there. Just listen to what they say.
But people, you're assuming people are willing to listen. I think a lot of people are. I think that's one of the manifestations of MAGA is that people are willing to listen. People are willing to open up their own mouths. People are willing to take more risks. The problem is we voted in Trump. We voted. We got excited. We want him to have his cabinet. Tulsi Gabbard, RFK Jr., Kash Patel, all these people. What are you doing? I know we're only 3 months in, but I'm not hearing the bluster. And I voted for the bluster. Now, let's be fair. We started this conversation. We mentioned the tariffs. Good move. Bold move. Very good, Mr. Trump. Why is Elon leaving? Why don't you come out and tell us? Because I don't know. I was trying to find out. What's going on with Doge? If you do find these trillions of dollars you say there are you giving them back to the American people? And if not, are you going to pay down our debt? That's what I'm hoping for. But we're talking about oligarchs. We're talking about the control that they have over the world. And one of their main weapons, if you want to call it that, is war.
And is very high on my list of things to watch. And as you probably know, I sent them a letter just recently, and I said, you're going to have to make a decision one way or the other. And we're going to either have to talk it out, or very bad things are going to happen to Iran. And I don't want that to happen. I don't want that to happen. My big preference, and I don't say this through strength or weakness, my big preference is we work it out with Iran. But if we don't work it out, bad things are going to happen to Iran.
And they were like, they'll probably cheer him on if he launches a war in Iran. And then I saw one guy underneath that said, he goes, I know Dave Smith sure will. And okay, it's just like a comment on Twitter, but I was just like blown away. And I'm not blown away by much, but I was like, does anybody actually thinks I would just because I'm like, well, I did support this guy. So I'll rationalize and like defend getting in another war in the Middle East. Is that, but just for anyone who may have that, I will say this. If Donald Trump actually does launch a war in Iran, not only will I not support it, I will apologize for the rest of my life for voting for the guy. That undoes any positive that might have come out of this. So just to be clear on that, it would be the most disastrous policy. And I just can't even believe, I mean, maybe that guy didn't even mean it, but I can't believe anyone would think like, you know, that somehow we're now in the business of just sucking up to Donald Trump. Fuck that. I was as sharp as goddamn critic in his first 4 years. I was a pretty sharp critic for the next 4 years after that. And I supported him this time because it just seemed like in the moment we had two options and one was clearly preferable. But I have no loyalty toward Trump or anyone in his cabinet or anything about the administration. I have loyalty to my principles and my country and my family, but none of that leads towards supporting a war in Iran. Okay, go ahead, Rob. Anything you want to weigh in with?
So, and real quick, Carol Bene is in the chat room. What's up, Robert? And everybody in the chat room, thanks for joining us here at the front line with Joe. And Joe says, what about the Epstein list? How come we haven't gotten that yet? It's an effing list. It's got names on it. It's written on a piece of paper. You hand it to somebody so they can read it. Why aren't you handing it to us? See, these are the things that show me that you want to know what? They're losing steam right off the bat. And yeah, I'm with Dave Smith. Knows where you definitely are, Mr. Trump, President Trump. You definitely were the better choice over Joe Biden. But I didn't vote for you because you're a better choice than Joe Biden. The devil is a better choice than Joe Biden. That's not why I voted for you. I voted for you because you said you were going to do all these things. It's not that hard. You pick up the phone, release the list. I don't care who's on it. Release the list. You know why? Because their effing friends are on it, Joe. That's why.
I mean, that to me is candy. Like I am on the side of Dave Smith. America first. This is Israel's deal. If they have nuclear weapons, if it's legit, I don't even know if it's legit. I'm not going to speculate on it, but I question anything that these people do because, frankly, war is what they do. And at the end of the day, it's Israel's deal. We are not in the business of fighting Israel's battles. Period. End of story. That doesn't make me anti-Semitic. That doesn't make me hate Jews. It makes me put my country first. That is your deal. And here's another thing. A war with Iran is not going to be as easy as you think. It has a massive military, massive, and it will not be like Space Invaders, like watching television, just dropping bombs. It will be prolonged, and that means American lives get put at stake. Sorry, Israel, if this is what you want to do, and this is what you voted for in Benjamin Netanyahu, that's your deal. That's your deal, and I wish you well. But we're not getting involved. And I think this is a mistake on Trump's part. Huge to say. You just start throwing words around. Oh, it's going to be bad. It's going to be very bad. That's not prudent. And frankly, what I would whisper to Netanyahu if I was Trump, listen, I wish you well. We're your friend. We're your ally. But if you want to go to war with Iran, that's your deal.
See, but the problem is you mentioned Thomas Massey earlier. Thomas Massey was on with Tucker Carlson, and he said, and you know, this is one of those legit questions that when you bring it up, like you said, I don't have to tell people I'm not anti-Semitic, and neither do you. The problem is you'll be called that.
No, you have to, because people, it's sick. It's
because they don't want to have a real deal conversation. You tell me, Thomas Massey said, you tell me, I'm paraphrasing him, why every member of the United States House of Representatives, every member has an IPAC guy. Okay, which is the Jewish lobby. Why? What was her name? Catherine McKinnon. She got in trouble years ago because she said as soon as she got into her office, there was a fax on the fax machine making that you had to sign pledging your support of Israel. I'm sorry. Israel has a right to defend itself, and they certainly have a right to exist. But if you're gonna go to war with Iran, and this is more of a message for Donald Trump. Mr. Trump, if you go to war with Iran, guess what? You ain't getting out anytime soon. You're not bigger than geopolitics. You could have a tremendous amount of influence, okay? You go to war with Iran, and you know what's going to happen, Joe? How about another $15 trillion in
No,
debt
but that's what I'm
over the
saying.
course-
That doesn't help us. It's not our deal. It's not our deal. And frankly, Netanyahu, if you ask me, is a disaster. He's a friggin' warmonger. He's a disaster. And there are many people in Israel who feel exactly the same way as I do. He does not have like what's it called, a super majority by any means. He's a warmonger in plain English. And frankly, like, I don't know what the answer is to what they're dealing with. I really don't. I told you, if I was a Jewish father and a husband and I lived in Israel, I'd move to Teaneck, New Jersey. I would. It's the safest place. I would leave. I'm not living there. I'm not putting my wife and kids in danger. I'm going to say goodbye to my kids to go to school thinking they're going to get blown up on a bus. Get the frig out of here. Bye. Bye. I'm leaving. I'm not living there. I'm not going to have my wife. She's going to go to the store to buy bread and she's going to die. Get the frig out of here. Bye.
You know what the problem is with a lot of Trump supporters, okay? And we both voted for him here at the front line with Joe and Joe Pasillo, Joe Rossinello away in the breach. We both voted. A lot of Trump supporters, Joe, this is one of the problems in America that a lot of people don't want to talk about, Christian Zionism, okay? Christian Zionism.
No, I've heard that the evangelicals, they have like this view, like, listen, I don't have the answer. I think they're in like almost like a no-win situation, Israel, in all honesty, because there are people who don't want them there, that are not interested. Like it's a no-win situation. Like even if they wanted a two-state solution, there are people who don't want that either.
Don't want that.
So, I mean, as a normal person, I don't have the answer, and I'm not going to pretend like I do. What I would say to a normal person, a normal Jewish family, is you got to leave. I would leave.
No,
I'm not living, and I would leave. I would not put my family through that here. There's no way. There's no president. There's no nation out there that is going to basically, I'm going to lay my family on the line for you. Sorry, got to go. Not staying, not sticking around. That's why people migrate. That's why people move around. That, let's be honest, it's not safe. I can't work. There's no food. I got to go. And I would leave. There is no way I would live in that region of the world. Sorry.
But like I said, this is a big problem because the same people that would agree with us that we can't add more to the debt, we shouldn't get involved in any foreign wars. Unfortunately, when it comes to having an honest dialogue and an honest debate about what our stance should be towards Israel, there are many Americans who say, no, Iran, no, we got to go to war with Iran. Okay, what about the debt? What about American soldiers, American lives?
That is just a disaster. None of that works.
What are you going to do 10 years down the road when you can't get out and then people are dying like they did in Afghanistan just trying to get out, and it's a whole mess.
Horrible.
Trump needs to stay out of this. If he wants to help negotiate, by all means, go ahead.
That's cool. That's cool. And like I said, I'm not saying we shouldn't be friends with Israel. You're our friend. You're our ally. I'm all about that. We're just not going to a war. We're not doing it. Have fun. If that's what you want to do, Netanyahu, that's on you, dude. That's on you. We're not getting involved. Right. We have enough problems. Joe, our infrastructure is falling apart. Our cities are falling apart. How many people in the interior of America have no work? People can't get married because they don't have jobs. This is bad.
Yes.
We do not need that aggravation. Again, we're your friend. We're your ally. We wish you well. If this is what you want to do, it's on you. Trump should keep his mouth shut and stay out of it. It's a huge mistake.
No, I agree with you 1,000%. And it's like, it's sometimes you say to yourself, like, again, this whole conversation is about oligarchs and the way they control things. We know that they want war. We know that there's a lot of people in our party that we call, let's say we're Republicans. I know we're not technically, we lean that way. But and again, and I want to just say this, and then I want to play a clip for you. But it's not only Christian Zionists. Guys like Rick Santorum, who's a good guy. He was always banging the drum on going to war with Iran. It's like, Rick, you got to back up a little bit, dude. We don't need another effing war. You know, the people of Iran are very pro-Western. The people, all right, the population, the citizens of Iran. They're not all in favor of the mullahs. They're not. And when I say pro-Western, I don't mean pro-gay, pro-abortion, pro-all that. They're just a little bit more open. They're a little bit more tolerant than, let's say, the mullahs, the Ayatollah, and all that.
Well, that country
they
got
would have their own
destroyed.
internal problems if they went to war. Let's hope there's enough pressure within Iran to figure this all out, talk it all out, call Netanyahu all the names you want, and he can call you all the names he wants. Come to an agreement and no war. But then again, the oligarchs are controlling so much. They're controlling elections.
Marine Le Pen, the far-right leader, got convicted in court and is now banned from running for office for 5 years. Do you have a comment on that?
That's a big deal. That's a very big deal. I know all about it, and a lot of people thought she wasn't going to be convicted of anything, and I don't know if it means conviction, but she was banned for running for 5 years, and she's the leading candidate. That sounds like this country. That sounds very much like this country.
Now, what were the chances that Le Pen could get a fair trial in France? Is it the same as Trump in New York, and why are they so afraid of her?
Less. They don't have a constitution like ours that finally, in the end, helps somewhat. But, you know, the Europeans are always telling us that they, not us, are the guardians of democracy, and they are the forerunners. They don't emulate America. We copy them. And now what they're doing is they looked at these 4 years in the wilderness of Donald Trump and the 91 indictments. They thought, that's a pretty good way to neuter a candidate and get him off the ballot in 25 states and raid his home. And so now we see in Romania in March they did it with Iorescu, and he probably won't be on the ballot in May. In February, the Alternative for Deutschland, what they call the far right, which is pretty conservative party,
AfD.
but they wouldn't. It had 150 seats, 20% of the vote, and no other party would even get near them to form a coalition and therefore a government. And now Le Pen, they not only got her off the ballot, she's under house arrest for 2 years and then a suspended sentence. So they criminalize it, and they're copying what the left has done in America because, as you pointed out, they've got the same symptomatology. They don't know what to do with this massive backlash and pushback against the new Green Deal and the Green Party and the open borders and the immigrant crime. No one listens to people, and they.
So that's the thing. If you're against what the oligarchs are for, they're going to throw you in jail or try to, and they're going to keep you off the ballot. And then here's my beef, and I'm going to throw it right to you, Joe Rossino, because I know you're going to agree with me on this. The central point is that the media is complicit in all this because they will blast Marine Le Pen, and they'll say, and Donald Trump, Giorgia Meloni, who's the president of Hungary, Viktor Orban, okay? Bolsonaro when he was the president of Brazil. They'll blast them all about being anti-democratic when they were all democratically elected. And Marine Le Pen would be the president of France.
No question, she would be.
Right. So who's in? So when these Ivy League liberals in the media try to explain to me how Donald Trump is a fascist and he's an authoritarian and he's against democracy. No, you are. The difference is you can't say or give one example how Trump is anti-democratic, but we could give a long laundry list as long as my arm about the ways that you people are anti-democratic and you tolerate it, and then you think you're going to call us names. Then you wonder why there's a backlash, Joe.
Joe, they're not even pretending anymore.
No.
This democracy is officially dead in France. We just watched it. First, Macron, he suspended parliament. That was a couple years ago. He basically wasn't going to get his way. He suspends the parliament, and now they basically throw the next president of France, she would have won, in jail. And this is the lesson Europe learned from Brexit. And they were like, we can never have this happen again. They're not even pretending. And this is why I loved when J.D. Vance went to Germany and laid down the law. My prediction is as the Trump presidency moves forward, if J.D. Vance is elected or another like Republican, some say it could be, DeSantis, it could be a number of people. There is going to be a realignment in the world. We no longer share values with France. We don't share values with England. Maybe with the people, but not with the government. Brussels is a disaster and the EU needs to be dissolved. Do you know, I'll just use one country, Portugal. Do you know 80% of the taxes collected in Portugal go to Brussels?
Is that right?
80%. So this is what I'm saying. It's feudalism, people. Get it through your head. These people are not interested in your voice and they're no longer pretending to. This is blatant tyranny. Throwing the next president, she would have won. Do a little research. She had the support, and that's exactly why this happened, because they know it. Let's not pretend anymore. We no longer espouse the same value system. But here's the thing. Many of our leaders do. Many of the people in America do have the same belief system as Brussels. And that's a problem.
Yeah.
Because that could very easily happen here. Don't think it couldn't. We were this close to it happening here. To a one-party system like California, which is a one-party system. It was set up that way. And that would have happened here. And it still might.
Well,
and frankly,
this is, I don't, they're making, of course, this is the positive side about having Trump in there and people like Elon Musk and voices out there who are sane, okay, and do share our values. I think it was last week they talked about federal legislation outlining, the guidelines for voter ID. All right, federal legislation. We talked about that last year. So if we don't get federal legislation,
Joe, if he doesn't do that, that's the biggest disappointment possibly. That's right up
I
there.
I think there's too much of a groundswell of support for that. The Democrats are going to fight tooth and nail because, as we've said, going back to 2018, since we started doing this show, if you had fair, if elections were cleaned up and dead people like my father couldn't vote in New Jersey, okay, which my father probably does still vote in New Jersey, if that was all cleaned up, the Democrats wouldn't get elected dog catcher. Not on this agenda. Now, an RFK Jr. might get elected president as a more traditional Democrat. Okay, but not Ilhan Omar or AOC. This dude wouldn't get elected president no matter what he said.
Can't even have a conversation with the other side.
You have to. They won.
Thank you. That's it. Bottom line. And by the way, or the notion we just have to continue to talk to ourselves, or we're in the same damn echo chamber. These guys are crushing us. The Democratic brand is toxic right now. We had a high water mark 2 weeks ago, and that was a CNN poll at 29% favorability. It's dropped in the NBC poll down to 27%. It's one thing to make noise, but you also have to make sense. And I think with this podcast and having the opportunity to dialogue with people I disagree with, it's an opportunity to try to find common ground and not take cheap shots. I'm not looking to put a spoke in the wheel of their, or at least a crowbar in the spokes of their wheel to trip them up, to your point. And I think it's important. Democrats, we tend to be a little more judgmental than we should be. This notion of cancel culture, you've been living it. You've been on the receiving end of it for years and years and years. That's real. And Democrats need to own up to that. They've got to mature about this.
So what do you say to people who say, well, this sounds all very good, but Governor, you were the poster boy for a lot of this stuff. I see today the Trump administration they talked about, I don't know if this is true, but they talked about the fact that California had a rule that schools cannot be required to notify parents if their kids in school have changed their gender, their pronouns. That's the kind of thing, even though it doesn't affect a lot of people, that makes a lot of people go, well, you know what? That's the party without common sense. Now, if that's your state, how are you?
Well, I just disagree with that. I mean, the law was you would be fired. A teacher would be fired if a teacher did not report or snitch on a kid talking about their gender identity. I just think that was wrong. I think teachers should teach. I don't think they should be required to turn in kids. And by the way,
we're talking about their parents. How can you snitch? The idea of a snitch and a parent to me doesn't compute.
Well, I don't. But what is the job of a teacher? It's to teach. If Johnny's talking about some identity issue or some issue about liking someone of the same sex, is the teacher's job to then report that? By the way, in this law, the teacher can still do that, but they can't be fired if that's what it can't be fired if that's not what they do. And that's something I think.
So you see how Gavin Newsom, I lost Joe for a minute here at the front line with Joe and Joe. You see how Gavin Newsom is trying to come across as a centrist. He's trying to come across as reasonable. And yet when he's confronted by a liberal, a leftist like Bill Maher, what does he do? I don't know. The last part of that whole thing about the teachers and everything, I don't even know what the hell he was saying. What is he saying exactly? I'm not quite getting it. But Gavin Newsom wants to be relevant. Because he wanted to go along with his party during COVID. All you have to do is think about that. He wasn't exactly looking at dialogue when it came to that. He wasn't looking at dialogue when he went to a Michelin star restaurant with no mask on with 9 or 10 people to have dinner and spend thousands of dollars at a she French restaurant. Okay. He wasn't worried about that. He wasn't connecting with the people worried about dialoguing then. He was like, oh, that doesn't matter. Why? Because it's you. Like Gretchen Whitmer in Michigan. And now all of a sudden, Gavin Newsom wants to try to come across as somebody who's middle of the road because now he's got a podcast and I'm going to dialogue with people and I'm going to try to understand them. You didn't try to understand them when you were pulling all your nonsense in California. You weren't trying to understand people. You simply were going along with your party, with your leftist buddies, with your oligarch buddies, and doing their will. And now you want to try to run away from that. Well, guess what? It's not working, Gavin. It's not working. Whatever you're selling, normal people in America, we're not buying. I'm going to tell you that right now at the front line with Joe and Joe. Joe Pasillo, Joe Rosinolo, I'm sure, will click back in because he's unstoppable. And as soon as I get him back, we'll finish up the conversation. But we go from oligarchs. And all that's why we played the clip with Tulsi Gabbard, RFK, and Gavin Newsom. What happened to Marine Le Pen is an out-and-out joke. The idea that they want us to go to war and they're beating the drums of war to go to war with Iran, which is going to be absolutely, absolutely destructive for all of us. Okay, we can't allow that to happen. So you go with the people who are in control, and then you got to talk about the people who are controlled. Watch this.
Democrats are completely unhinged.
You're a woman! You're a woman! What the hell is disgusting?
Destruction of property is a perfectly viable source of protest. No harming humans, obviously. Yeah. Human life is sacred no matter whose it is. But property these are just things. These are just cars.
They're just cars. So that means, and Joe Rosinolo, I don't know if you saw, welcome back. I don't know if you saw that clip. I want to comment from you before I talk about that clip about Gavin Newsom. I was telling the audience here at the front line with Joe and Joe that basically he wanted to be relevant during COVID, so he went left. And he was an oligarch, and he was an authoritarian, and he went to dinner at a Michelin star restaurant. No mask, no social distancing, telling people what to do. Don't do as I say, do it, or don't do as I do as I say. Now, all of a sudden, he wants to try to come across as mainstream. Now, all of a sudden, he's talking about reaching the end and having a dialogue. Anybody who goes on his show is misguided. I don't want to call anybody names. They're misguided. They should tell him, thank you, no thank you. I hope your podcast goes down in flames. Period. Joe. Unfortunately, Joe, we can't hear you. I don't know if
Can you hear me?
Yes. So now guess what? Because we're at the front line with Joe and Joe, and we always just keep going through. Uh Go ahead. Speak
No, but
again.
what I'm just saying is don't trust him. He's a shrewd politician. He's distancing himself from the sinking ship. Unlike AOC, unlike Bernie Sanders, he sees that they can't win and he's just distancing himself. But I got news for you. If you voted for him as a moderate, he'll just slide right back. He'll do anything. He'll say anything to become the president. He is like Joe Biden in that respect. Joe Biden would have said anything. He was like a doll. Basically, they just pulled the strings and he opened his mouth and he said whatever they told him to. Gavin Newsom's doing the same thing. Don't trust him. That's all I'm going to say. Absolutely, positively. I don't think he can win, but that's what he's trying to do. He's running for office on that podcast. It's step one on his campaign trail.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you. So I want to play this clip again for everybody at the front line with Joe and Joe. It's a short one, but pay attention. Joe, my larger point in playing this clip was we go from the oligarchs who do the controlling to those who are controlled. And by the way, unhinged.
Democrats are completely unhinged.
Woman! You're a woman! What the hell is disgusting?
Destruction of property is a perfectly viable source of protest. No harming humans, obviously.
Yeah.
Human life is sacred no matter whose it is. But property these are just things. These are just cars.
I don't know if I want to laugh, puke, get mad, but I will say this about the second woman, okay?
Oh, she's
human life is
crazy,
sacred.
dude.
Right. I would lay any amount of money, and I would lay 10-1, and I would win, okay, that woman is pro-abortion. So spare me the human life is sacred, okay? Property, how about if I come and I key your car? How about I come and I take a crowbar and I break the window on your car, I pour gasoline in it and light a match? How are you going to feel if it's your property, Missy? Never touched you, didn't put my hands on you, but how about if I busted up your car? What would you think about that?
I remember when all the riots were going on in the summer of 2020 and listening to some woman in Chicago saying a similar type of thing, saying like, oh, the insurance companies will cover it, like talking about the looting. What kind of society is for that? She should be put in jail just for saying that. She should have a visit. She should at least be visited by the police. Are you serious? Like she's sick. And then the other woman grabbing someone's hat. What the heck is that? Joe, I'm telling you, it's frightening how crazy people are. That's absurd. And this is the funny part. Merrick Garland talked about domestic terrorism. That was a big thing he constantly spoke about. Your domestic terrorists. We're afraid it's the number one concern. They're domestic terrorists. Lighting cars on fire? Sorry, you need to go to jail. Grabbing somebody in a mall, grabbing their personal property, you need to be arrested. Sorry, I don't care what your political opinion is. You don't touch people. You don't break things. You don't steal. You don't hurt people. And if you do, you go to jail. And even to say that publicly and justify it, how the human mind can justify that behavior. And that's exactly what she's doing. She's sick. That is a sick person.
Well,
Period.
That's the perfect place.
I don't know what else to say.
No, you're right. And that's the perfect place to end the show here at the front line with Joe and Joe. We talked about the oligarchs, but remember something. The oligarchs, they have all those people, the one woman who knocked the hat off and the other one talking about, well, property is no big deal. They have them all in control, and they send them out to cause problems. They did that with their proxy warriors and Antifa and Black Lives Matter. Women in like if somebody did that to my wife, I don't even know what my reaction would be, man or woman. I'd be like, what the F are you doing? Who do you think you are doing that to my wife? But again, one of the things that oligarchs want is for people like that to cause disruption. That's why Elon Musk's Teslas are getting keyed all over the place. He's getting death threats. A woman wearing a MAGA hat gets it knocked off in the mall, and a whole host of other things. Hey, Joe, listen, we're just going to keep fighting back. We're going to keep fighting back. That's the best we could do. And let's hope, and let's not just hope. Let's pray for the best. I want to thank you all for joining us out there at the front line with Joe and Joe. Apologize for the sound issues, but we did get Joe back, and we ended the show properly. Remember, we go Thursday nights, 9 o'clock Eastern time. Wherever you're seeing the video, please help us out. Share it, like it, subscribe to our channel. And remember, until next week, that our conversation is your conversation, and that conversation is going on everywhere. We'll talk to you soon.